Hi, today we're going to learn about how to use the Americolor dye system for dyeing automotive carpet that's faded. If you just Google Americolor, you'll find their website. They sell dye kits mostly for residential style carpet, but if you dig on their website a little, they also have a section just for automotive carpet. And the dye comes powdered, and you get a little kit that comes with the powdered dye. It comes with a solution that you mix with the dye that helps it fix to your nylon automotive carpet better. And it comes with a brush, which is actually very useful and very important when doing it. It comes with a pipette, which is good for doing spot fixes. And it comes with a stirring stick. Like I said, their dye is powdered, and what's really nice about that is it goes a long way. I can't express to you the long way this dye goes. They gave me 2 little vials that are about that big, and I'm just using pinches of dye to make a good dark dye to use on my carpet. I already did one panel just to test it, and I'm going to go ahead and do another panel. We're working on my Avanti here, and I just painted this car, and it's really nice, but a lot of the carpet is faded. Last year I did a demo where I dyed some carpet in the back using a different dye method, and that dye method was more homemade and problematic. This dye method is a standardized commercial dye method that anybody can purchase on the internet, and comes with everything you need. This is everything that came with the dye kit. This right here is the brush, and you can see the website right on there, americolordyes.com. It came with 2 vials of this dye. I needed this maroon color. It's got these little bowls, these little cups, this dye prep, which makes it adhere to the carpet fibers better. Pipette, directions, and mixing stick. I think the price on this was somewhere around $40. The mixing instructions begin with having you mix this dye prep 1 tablespoon with 32 ounces of hot water, and then a small amount of dye. So for the hot water, they want a minimum of 140 degrees. What I did is I used a much smaller amount because I'm going to be working on smaller areas, and so I was just mixing a smaller amount. So I divided this in 4, and I just used 8 ounces of water and a 1/4 tablespoon. And what I did is to keep the stuff hot, I put it in a certain kind of coffee mug that stays warmer, because the heat is important to get the dye to get into the fibers. I decided to have somebody else steam clean the carpet before I go ahead and dye it. This is the piece of carpet I'm going to work on. It's carpet on the bottom of a door, and it's in not bad shape. It just has faded areas like right there and right there. The sun's really bright today. It's the camera doesn't really show real well how faded this carpet is, but hopefully you can see it. I'm going to show how you mix the formula. I've got about 12 ounces of water in here. This is the dye prep. You mix this in with the water before you put the dye in. So what I'm going to do is, since I'm not making the 32 ounce, I'm just going to use a little less than half a tablespoon. And before I put the dye in, I'm going to go ahead and heat this up. And I'm just going to heat it up in the microwave. So it's going to be in the microwave for 2 minutes. This is my hot water out of the microwave. It's a little pink right now because I've been using the same glass to make my dye in, so don't be alarmed by that. This is the dye right here. It's a fine powder. So what I'm going to do is just get some pinches of this dye. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I put in 6 pinches of this, and you know, it's not super scientific or anything. I have found that I need my formula to be really dark. So I'm adding more dye than you might need to. My carpets are, you know, a dark maroon. And I started mixing I think I just put 2 pinches in the first time. But as I've made it darker, it's working better. So I'm going to continue using it dark. Now I'm just stirring it up. You want to stir it real good. I usually stir things like this for about a minute. Another thing I'm basing my dye concentration on is the color it's making my stir stick. I feel like this dark color it's put on the stir stick is a lot closer to what I need than using less dye. Again, you're going to have to adapt to your own situation. This is the container I'm using for my dye. It's just a coffee travel mug. What I did is I mixed the dye in there, and then I microwaved it to get it real hot. You can see that it's still steaming a little bit. The directions say to have it at least 140 degrees. I have this sponge brush which I'm going to use to apply the dye. The actual directions say to use a spray bottle, but to me that doesn't make any sense, because if the dye has to be hot, it's going to lose all its heat, you know, when you spray it through the air. So I'm going to use this brush. The other thing in the instructions, which I'm not going to go over today because I already did it, is you want to thoroughly clean your carpet, preferably vacuum it first and then steam clean it, like with a little Automotive attachment on a steam cleaner. I've already done that, so I am ready to dye. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by applying it to the faded areas. And on this carpet, the faded areas are around the edges of the carpet, like the corners and then the edges around the top. So I am going to apply it around the edges first to get more dye in those areas. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be back. I've done my spots, so now I'm just going to go ahead and brush dye over the entire surface. like that. I've brushed dye across the entire surface with my sponge brush, and now I'm going to use this brush. And what this does is it just helps distribute the dye evenly within the fibers. And again, it's so sunny, the lighting conditions aren't that ideal, but hopefully you can see what this is doing. But anyway, you work it in with this, and then afterwards you would just make a decision about whether or not you wanted to reapply more dye. It does take several coats usually. So I'm going to work this in and then make a judgment call as to what else I need to do. The door panel is completely saturated in the dye now, and I've brushed it out and it looks pretty even. So I'm going to go ahead and let it dry and see how she looks. The lighting is a lot better now, so I'm going to show you what the carpet looks like after one round of dyeing. This is what it looks like right now, and it's pretty good. There's still some work around the top edges I want to do. And now I'm going to show you what the carpet looked like before. So this is some carpet I'm going to dye later, and this is just a little faded. It's lost a lot of its color. So see how that's real rich, and this is kind of, it's just faded, and it's sort of like, it's hard to explain, but it's like it's lost the color on the top of the threads. So that's the dyed carpet, and this is a piece I'm going to be dyeing later. And this is the other door panel, which I worked on before. The carpet on the door panel is loose because I had to peel back the carpet to take the door panel off for some other work. But it's not damage to the carpet. I just have to glue it back down. The next thing I'm going to dye are the floor mats. The piece of carpet right there, that is a piece of carpet that was in the trunk, and it hasn't faded, and I'm using that as a reference for the floor mats in the car. So you can see how faded the floor mats are compared to the trunk carpet. So the floor mats have been steam cleaned, and I'm going to go ahead and work on dyeing them now. The directions say to put the dye in a sprayer. I have been resisting that because I don't think it makes any sense. I think that if you spray it, as soon as the dye hits the air, it's going to cool off. But I'm going to go ahead and try it on these two floor mats. The reason I'm going to try it is because I was thinking that part of the spray theory might be that most of the fading is on the top. The top of the carpet fibers, because when you get deep into the carpet fibers, they're shaded. So anyway, I'm just gonna go ahead and try spraying it. So basically, this is what the color looks like on the driver's side door panel after about 4 coats of dye, where I put the dye on nice and wet and let it completely dry. I think the color is a lot more rich, so I think I might be done. And to compare, this is the carpet inside that was under the floor mat, so it's not really faded. And I think the door carpet is looking pretty close to that. This is the passenger side door panel. I have about 4 coats of dye on it also. It's interesting, the color that I see in person seems better than what I'm looking at on the screen. This is a sample of the carpet that I took out of the trunk, which has not, doesn't have any fading, so it's pretty darn close. Hi. So I've got an update. I was never very satisfied with the spray bottle, and I was never very satisfied with the sponge brush. I just didn't really feel like the dye was going on right and going on smooth, but I discovered a new way to apply it. I decided to put some of the dye solution in my air gun sprayer, my air gun paint sprayer. It's the same gun you'd use to paint a car. Let me show it to you. This is it right here. And anyway, I used that on a section of carpet and it worked amazing. I set the pressure at about, let me see what it is here. At about 15 PSI. And the dye goes a really long way, and it coats real even and sits on top better. It's really doing the job. What I'll do is I'll do a little demo of it on the floor mats again. These are the floor mats. They already have about 4 coats of dye on them with the techniques I was using before. But let me go ahead and show you how this is going to work. Again, the lighting conditions are not fabulous out here, but in person it looks like it's going on really smooth. Anyway, that's the new technique I wanted to show you. I would go ahead and give that a try. I'm redoing some of the areas in my car with this technique, and I'm quite a bit more satisfied. The area of the car that I did mostly with the Automotive airbrush was this well that's behind the back seat where the convertible top folds down into. And I'll see if I can find a photo of how this looked before. But anyway, it was completely faded. It was just completely faded. This is the area that I did last year with RIT dye. And it dyed and looked real nice, for a couple months, and then it faded real quick. So this is what it looks like, sprayed with the Americolor dye, using my Automotive airbrush. At this point, I'm done with my dyeing project. I think what I have to say about the Americolor dyes is they are probably your best alternative, your best option if you want to dye your carpet. It was definitely much better than buying the pre-mixed dye so far as cost effectiveness was. Last year when I started dyeing carpet as an experiment, I bought some dye that it was pre-mixed and came in a bottle, and you sprayed it, and it was sold by an automotive company as Automotive Carpet Dye. And it's not that it didn't work, it's just that the one bottle didn't go very far, and it would have been ridiculously expensive to continue to use that as the dye. I would have gone through 30 bottles and not even dyed that very much, so it didn't really make any sense. With the Avanti, it's a 30-year-old car that had been out in the sun too much, and the carpet was faded, and I think I brought it back, I'd say, to like 80%. So it doesn't look brand new, but it looks dramatically better. Certain areas turned out better than others. I think a lot of it had to do with how worn out the carpet was. This is one of the areas that I think turned out particularly well. It's just a patch of carpet that's under the dashboard. I think it turned out really nice. That's it for this video on dyeing carpet. Good luck with your own projects, and I hope you enjoyed this video.